Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Journeys in Fandom.
Hey, woo.
Woo! We're still going, it's all good.
Yes, excellent, good stuff. And today we're talking about the evolution of TV, streaming. We haven't really got a catchy title, as always, for these things.
We were just going to talk about what have Matt and Tim watched on telly recently, but then we thought, actually, there's more of a conversation to be had here about what is even telly anymore.
Yeah, so that's it. Because, again, lots has changed since we did the podcast last time to where we are today. So it's actually worth just looking at TV
Netflix
as a whole.
Netflix was on DVD back then, wasn't it?
It probably was. We'll have to have a look and see when that came out.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how bad or how good that turns out. Yeah, no, it's been, it's not been that long really, but things have changed a lot, certainly the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I feel like I've aged 100 years since season 1 of the podcast, so...
Speaking of aging 100 years, really bad link. It's news time.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful link.
Actually, it's really bad, especially as I'm going to talk about a certain person, and it's like, oh, that's just really not a nice thing to say. So, guess who's back in Doctor Who for the new series with Ncuti Gatwa? Have you seen who's back for probably one episode?
No, I have not seen who's back. Who's back?
It's Mel, hey! Bonnie Langford.
Bonnie Langford is back. Well,
doesn't say anything more about that, only that everyone's really excited, blah, blah, blah. Nice picture. Looks like
obviously
Unit in the background.
Langford has not aged 100 years. Probably only...
No, far from it. She's ageless.
Probably only 50?
I don't know how old she is. She must be older than that, surely. She's been around since
aged 50 years.
Oh, right. Yes. Anyway, she's back. Last seen in Dragonfire, wasn't it? It was Ace's first story, her last one. She went off with some dude. And Oh, no. She was in the Companions Anonymous scene at the end of the last series, if you managed to stomach that bit, where Graham had all the old companions together, and there was
yes
she was just she didn't say anything, but she was just there, wasn't she?
Yes. I do remember. I had obviously scrubbed that from my mind.
Yes, so who knows what she's going to be doing, but that'll be quite cool to see her back. And there'll be some carrot juice is not her. Oh jeez, it's your mate, isn't it? Does she talk to Six? Yeah. Who was the one who talked about carrot juice to Sixth Doctor? Was it her? Or was it... It was her, wasn't it? Am I getting confused? Yeah, it was her. Probably. Because he fell off he fell off the exercise bike and regenerated. So, yeah, it is her. So, yeah. There we go. Oh, it's been a long day. It's been a long week.
It's Time is weird.
Timey-wimey. Anyway, Bonnie Langford's back in Doctor Who, so all is good. I want to know how old she is.
Exciting time. Don't Google it.
How old
don't do
is Bonnie Tyler? No, Bonnie Langford. 58. Oh, there you go. I thought she was older than that. There you go. Never mind. Right, on to more important things. TV.
More important things than Bonnie Langford. Well, that just shows how you feel about Mel, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah, well... She was all right. She's my first companion, I guess. But I like Ace.
Ace was cool.
And she's obviously been back in the last one. Yes, we're digressing.
Yeah.
TV.
We've gone off the rails already.
So, how many streaming services do you subscribe to?
2. Netflix and Amazon.
Wow. Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus... and a rolling free subscription because I got vouchers for Apple TV Plus. So that's 4.
What about the big 5th one, Roku?
Is that the same as Hulu? What's Roku on its own?
I don't know, but my friend Josie has it, and it's just a streaming service that's got stuff on it.
It's weird, isn't it? Because there was one.
Or is that a streaming box? I don't know. I'm so confused.
Hang on. I've heard of it, to be fair, now you mention it.
Yeah.
It's ROKU. There we go.
I know John Oliver makes a joke when they are talking about Apple and Amazon and say, oh, yes, we're a big tech company. And they go, no, you're not.
It's a streaming box. Some
Yes.
weird streaming box. What is Roku? Streaming player. So yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
The fact we're confused by what is a streaming service and what isn't, because there's Hulu, Max.
Now this is where we go down. This is one of the things I thought we'd talk about today is legal streaming services versus illegal streaming services, because there's a big difference. It's obviously, for the benefit of the listeners, we're talking about UK streaming services, what we can get in the UK. So
Yeah.
I know, you know, the listeners, the watchers know, whack on a VPN service and you can get Netflix USA, you can get Max, you can get all the stuff that we can't get in the UK, which then, I'm not going to go into the legalities, illegalities of what you shouldn't and shouldn't be listening to, but these days everyone does it. But I think we're just coming, if we narrow our view just to UK based services. Yeah, because you're right.
I don't do it.
No, I've never done it, to be fair. Because Max is an interesting one, because quite a lot of the Max or HBO Max, whatever it is, stuff ends up on Sky, like Game of Thrones, we talked about it the other day, the Justice League Snyder Cut, that ended up on Sky, didn't it? So you could probably throw Sky / Now TV into the mix as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
If you're going
I'm
to talk
sure
about
there's a
streaming.
Sky streaming, so like Sky, isn't there a Sky Cinema package you can do which has all your movies and stuff?
Yeah, we can. I had a phone call the other day. I still have. So I used to have Sky TV, but stopped watching it, stopped paying for it, because we realised we were paying. I can't remember. It was cheap compared to the full packages, but it was still like 30 quid. We never watched it, and it was like, well, why are we paying for something? So we ended up watching the end of Game of Thrones, which was a joke anyway, but we ended up watching that on Now TV because it was like 10 quid as opposed to 30. So Sky now does stuff on, you don't have to have a dish, you can do it through broadband now, which is like, that's an interesting thing. Still charge you an arm and leg for it, but
yeah, of course.
So technically Sky is now a streaming service. I'd imagine cable, if you've got Virgin cable, things like that, that's another streaming service. But that's kind of like,
well,
sorry, go on.
I think it also boils down to the fact that, does anyone actually watch live TV anymore?
I still pay for a TV license.
Yeah.
Because the hassle factor involved in not having a TV license is probably the one thing that puts me off. Obviously, having a young child, you end up having to watch some stuff on iPlayer, but I think the only thing I watched, and not live because I don't have time to watch it live, would have been King's Coronation, because my son wanted to watch it and it was mildly interesting. Doctor Who, but then I always watch that like an hour later because I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
Death in Paradise, because it's genius, and again I'd watch that. And Beyond Paradise, because that was a spin-off. So everything else, no, not watched any BBC stuff. BritBox, there's another one. I signed up to BritBox.
Yeah.
Got a deal on it for a year's subscription thing, so I've got that now and I can't get rid of it for a year. But it's not too bad, to be fair. It's worth it. It was like one of these sale prices they did at the start of the year. So, live TV, I don't watch live TV.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I actually turned my Virgin box on and actually watched something on any of the million channels we've got. I think if I come in, I'll come in, I'll stop in front of the TV, and I'll flick on Netflix or Amazon and just go, do you know what have I watched recently, and just hit something random.
Yeah.
And you think, is this a positive thing? Is it a good thing? So how do you discover something new? Like, if you were like watching a series, you go, that series is coming up, but that might look interesting. I'll give it a watch. But because you're not watching TV anymore, you have to either see an advert for it on Netflix or Amazon, or you think, well, actually, am I missing out on stuff?
I think it's more word of mouth, isn't it? So I was thinking Squid Game on Netflix was the classic one where people started watching it, and then it started spiraling and rolling, and then loads of people saying, you got to watch this. So quite a lot of it comes from word of mouth. Sometimes, because the algorithms got me, I'll get the emails from Netflix say, oh, you might be interested in this. and I'll go, oh, actually, yeah, stick it on the watch list. But yeah, how do you know? Trying to think, how do you know new shows are coming out? I suppose.
Yeah, and especially if it's a genre that you're not one to normally watch. So, like the classic, you've had like all of like the TV dramas. You don't get those sort of things on your Netflix or Amazon. If I'm not watching telly, I never see an advert to say it's coming out. Therefore, I never watch it. Therefore, I never know it existed. And you get this sort of self-fulfilling cycle of just not knowing what's on anymore.
BBC's a bit like that, I have to admit. So I can remember, it's recalling all the other things I've watched on BBC. I watched Traitors over after it finished at Christmas. I watched it. So it's like this, I say reality TV thing. It was kind of a slow burn, and it got a cult following. Again, word of mouth. But I hadn't seen any adverts for it. And basically, you get a load of, I think it was like 12 normal people who were in this Scottish like castle hotel, and they have to slowly, 3 of them are traitors, and the rest have to work out who the traitors are, and each night one of them is sort of removed, and it whittles it down to the last 4, and if one of them was a traitor, the traitor wins all the money, but if they work out who the traitor is, the people win the money. It's a psychological.
How do they get removed?
They get if the traitors kill someone every night, and they remove someone, and then
this is Blood and Clock Tower, isn't it?
Yeah, with Claudia Winkleman.
Is it? Yeah, it's because there's a game called Blood and Clock Tower, which is the same process where you basically all take on a role.
Yes, because it came from
a day and night phase, and
Holland or somewhere. Something like that.
It's a classic sort of like one night werewolf kind of game, isn't it? Guess who's the bad guy?
And then they all sit around a big table and then point fingers at each other. And it's a very... I watched it purely for the psychology of groupthink. It was just like really good TV. But again, I didn't even know that was on TV until it came to the finale, and it was on like BBC News saying how successful it was. And I was like, well, because I don't watch TV, I don't see the trailers for it, so I don't know it exists. So you're right. There's certain things on broadcast TV that, apart from the staples that I've already talked about, I wouldn't know existed. I didn't know where I would go looking for them because they're not there.
And I find it interesting if you watch someone else's Netflix or Amazon, and like I look at like my recommendations and I look at other people's, and you think, are these the same streaming service? Because the stuff is completely different.
Yeah.
And you just think, how much stuff is on here that I just don't see or don't know about because I haven't clicked on that one show that then leads me to another show, to another show, to another show. So am I missing out on like 90% of this content because I'm not actively looking for it?
Yeah, I think that's it, because we went through a cheesy horror phase, just watching random sort of hour and a half horror films, and now Amazon just completely spamming with horror stuff. And I'm not interested in all that stuff. I'm just interested in this because they're funny. But the algorithm is good, but it can also hide stuff that it thinks you're not interested in. And it's very difficult to get into the bowels of Amazon or Netflix to find out what's in there.
Yeah, and to sort of reset your algorithm, because I like, mine is bad zombie movies, sharp, anime, and like Schwarzenegger movies, and you just go, it's just a complete mess. And you go, what have I done to my poor algorithm? I've ruined it.
Yeah, it is interesting. But anytime that I want to see a film, or I see something, like if I'm scrolling on TikTok and I go, oh, that's an interesting film, I go Netflix search, Amazon search, iTunes search to try and find it, to see where it's free, because I won't pay for it unless it's a rental on iTunes or Amazon, but I don't want to buy something. So it is interesting there's so much stuff. Is that now watering down what you want to see? But then there's some really good stuff as well. So,
and because there's all these streaming services, is it then creating a need for too much content? So you're just being drip fed, sort of watered down garbage half the time. This goes back to our What's Wrong with Marvel section, doesn't it? The whole like Disney just spewing out content. Well, actually, if you just made one film a year, that would be fine. But because you've got to do various films for all the genres and then have enough content for a streaming service and then extra, are you just creating content for the sake of content? And then is it quantity over quality?
Well, that's it. Disney, but I understand Disney Plus is losing money, so they're churning out all sorts of stuff to try and keep those subscribers in.
Why don't? So, I'm confused. How can Disney Plus lose money?
It's interesting because people are moving away from it because they don't like the content. So if you're a monthly subscriber, if 1,000 people leave a month, that's how many thousands of pounds going, and they're not coming back, or they're just pirating it and not actually paying for it outright. And yeah, there definitely seems to reports Disney Plus arm of the Disney empire is losing money because it had the influx of subscribers around the pandemic. Because I remember, because the day it came out was a day we all got sent home from work, and it's like, way, just go watch Disney Plus back when it was exciting. And then it's plateaued, and now it's dropping off because the quality is not as good as it was, I don't think. So that's an interesting model.
And like, you look at the Netflix model, make 2 series of any show and then cancel it.
And
is
now
that going to be the latest thing? Is that going to be TV going forward? Are you going to have, like, using Doctor Who as an example, something that runs for 10, 20, 30 seasons? Or is it just going to be, I've made 2 seasons, that's done?
Yeah, I suppose that's it. It's the Netflix model is a good one because on one hand they pick up ideas that other networks have dropped, which is great. But you're right, they'll spend a load of money, do one show, 1 series, 2 series, and then just drop it, and you're like, oh man. So they have the freedom to throw the money at things, but on the flip side is they have the freedom to just drop things straight away, and it's like, ugh. I suppose if we're going to talk about freedom money, how much money did Amazon pay for Lord of the Rings, and how...
Wasn't it $1 billion? Something stupid. It's the most expensive TV show ever, isn't it?
Amazon,
and I've still not watched
it. I'm sorry, but it's shit. If you want it is awful. They've bastardized the entire story, rewritten key characters to make them more inclusive, and just added things in that totally don't make sense. It's watching it for. It's worth watching.
If you get this cancelled again.
Rings of Power is bad. They spent let's work out how much. They spent a fortune on it. $715 million for the first season.
Jesus.
And if the second season doesn't do well, it will be dropped. I read that somewhere else. Oh, hang on. Yeah, you're right. Over $1 billion over the course of all the seasons, but they don't even know because it was so badly received across the board that they've got to make the second season work. But I just don't think they can do it because the thing is as well they've moved all the filming from New Zealand to Northern Ireland, so they spent a shitload of money and then they relocated everybody for the second season, thinking it was going to do really well. So they kind of hedged their bets, and it's kind of failed. It's worth watching for a laugh. It'll make you cry, but it's worth a laugh for some of the really bad dialogue and some of the really bad characters.
So for me, you've obviously got Lord of the Rings trilogy, which is superb. Can't fault it. It's just perfect, and I love every second of it. You've then got The Hobbit, which happened.
It was all right, The Hobbit.
Was it?
Nice. Obviously, he took a lot of liberties with it, but there was some good characterizations there. I thought, like, the dwarfs was very.
I remember sitting in a cinema watching the third Hobbit movie, thinking, if you put these dwarves in a lineup, I still couldn't tell you who they were. And I've watched them for three movies, and I remember cheering when they started dying, because I thought it finally means that this trash is finally going to come to a pleasing end.
Take that jam jar of rage and then expand on it, and you'll get Rings of Power. Anyway, we digress.
Oh God. Yeah.
Amazon paid so much money for that and have hedged so much on it, and I think it's going to fail, and it'll fail spectacularly over the next course of the next couple of years.
Oh, that's not good to hear, because I love Lord of the Rings.
Because the thing is with that, and everyone says it's it's everyone's chasing the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because Game of Thrones, ignoring the last couple of seasons, was the thing to watch, wasn't it? It was everyone was talking about it. It was really good, compelling drama, and it was like on a massive scale, and it just worked. And now that was probably the one that, because it started, didn't it? Or when did it start? A long time ago.
Yeah. Because I remember watching 3/4 of the first episode, and that's all I've seen so far.
To be fair,
what? Yeah, one day I'll sit and watch some of it. Yeah.
It's not worth it because the ending's shit. Seriously, the ending is so bad. It's just these things these days. It's like you can't invest in anything. When did it start? April 17th, 2011. There you go. So that started. But did that start when we were doing this podcast? The first series, it must have been.
I think we did talk about it in the first series.
It must have been going, did. And it ended in 2019. So that probably bridged the gap between full-on streaming, everything's streaming services, and TV. Because if you didn't have Sky, you couldn't see it, and you had to pirate it.
Yeah.
And it was the most pirated TV
and it was
show
only
of all time.
on Sky Atlantic, wasn't it? Which you had to have like the Sky heavy duty membership for.
And it wasn't on Now. It wasn't on Now TV. It was only on Sky, and that's why it got pirated so much. So, and then it moved to Now TV as Now TV came out later in those years. But everyone was chasing that Game of Thrones, and it's this Rings of Power is going to be the next Game of Thrones, and no, it's awful. So
because I know when they were first talking about Rings of Power, they said it was going to have more nudity and sex than Game of Thrones did. And I remember hearing that and just, I remember hearing that and thought to myself, you can't do that to Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry, that's a line in the sand. Why would you want to do that?
I don't remember any nudity, if I'm honest.
No, I think that was one of the things when they were trying to chase the Game of Thrones vibe. It was, let's have fantasy with tits. Cool. Yeah.
No, they created a lot of their own characters and tried to weave them into the story, and made Sauron into someone from the OC, and Galadriel was a bloke, and that was about it. If you really know the bloke. Well, in Lord of the Rings, Galadriel is this elegant sort of like figure of beauty, and that she's wearing full-on armor, killing people. That's not what she did. She never did that. Any point, and they completely flip the characters. But I digress. It's rubbish. Yes, it's worth going on YouTube and watching some of the reaction videos to it, because it's worth it just for a laugh. But that was a lot of money spent on something that may or may not fail. But these places have the money. That's it. So BBC can't compete, and you'd argue that's why they've farmed Doctor Who out to Sony / Bad Wolf / Netflix, because they know special effects will be better, there are more budgets to do outside broadcast, all that kind of stuff, than the BBC can ever compete with. Yeah.
So one thing I've thought about, and this is the classic nostalgia TV show, Picard. Have you watched that?
Yes, third series great. I can ignore the other two.
Yeah, so I remember when they announced it, I thought, oh, God. And then I watched the first series, and I think at one point it says tea Earl Grey decaffeinated, and my heart broke. Okay, so, oh, God, we've got old. No, it's not allowed. And then the second series was all very strange. But it was you introduced new characters and blended them all in, and it worked. And you go, all right. And you had a bit of nostalgia, and then Series 3 I went, yes, I'm here for this. I'm all about this. It's just we're going on a full nostalgia trip. Screw everybody. This is going to be it. We're going to bring everyone back, and even the Enterprise, even though we've blown it up, it's fine. It's great. And you think, would a normal TV channel be able to do that?
No, I don't think so. Ignoring the fact it took them a while to get to that point, they had the freedom to do it because, they couldn't. You couldn't do it on normal TV per se because they had the budget to do it. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm trying to think of. Again, it's going back to what we said before. It's what have the BBC done that's big they have all the core shows that they roll out. I'm trying to think of, and probably viewers, listeners will go, oh, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. But what big tentpole thing has the BBC done outside of the usual stuff they do? Like new drama. I can't think of anything top of my head. New drama.
I think the problem is because we don't really watch TV anymore.
No.
You don't hear about it.
That's it.
It's like when I heard that Neighbours was getting cancelled because it wasn't making the money. I went, it's Neighbours. How can it not be making money?
It's not cancelled.
Came back, didn't it?
Yeah, because Amazon have bought it. And that's another example of picking up something and then just, because they've shoved up a load of the old stuff on the Amazon, on the Prime now, so you can watch it on Prime. So it's another thing where they've picked it up and they're running with it. So, yeah.
And you think, well, actually, so when we did season 1, everything was on normal telly, and like Netflix was you post a DVD and it's fine. Whereas we go, well, actually, for season 3, another 10 years' time, is there even going to be telly, or is it all going to be streaming services? Will the BBC exist? Will ITV exist? Because actually, if you're an advertiser, you're going, well, our advert's worth it. How long before the World Cup is on Netflix?
Sport's a whole different ballgame in its sense, because there's this, I don't know if it's the unwritten rule that World Cup has to be on free-to-access TV across the world, doesn't it? So the people will watch it. But imagine the revenue they could get if they shoved it on one of these big services. Because Amazon has UK football. Apple TV has just paid a multi-million-dollar contract for MLS soccer. Yeah. And that's solely on Apple TV. And then you've got obviously the Premiership stuff, which bounces around on Sky and BT Sport as well. So you could argue that sport in itself would go to a streaming service.
Formula 1's gone, hasn't it? That's on Sky now. Yeah. So I reckon 2 or 3 World Cups. Well, at one point, one of the big boys is just going to say to FIFA, how much money do you want? Pick a number. And they'll put it on a streaming service.
Let's have a look to see when Netflix started its first streaming thing. Around about 2007, by the looks of things. Oh, here we go. Hulu started in 2008. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because it's all out there, but it was still in its infancy.
Yeah, and I think back then broadband wasn't what broadband is now.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, because with the evolution of fibre and all that kind of stuff, you can now watch all this stuff like this in high quality, high def. To be fair, I've still got a Blu-ray player, and I buy discs of stuff that I want to keep because it is still better quality. The HD Blu-rays are better. Plus, I don't trust some of the streaming services, and this Doctor Who is an example of that. Obviously, on BritBox, they have edited some of the less PC episodes. Talons of Weng Chiang being a classic example. So you don't get the full thing. There's a couple of bits of cut out, which fair enough. I'm not going to get into that. But DVD, they haven't done that. So you just don't know. WWE Network, they cut out all the copyrighted music. So some of the old stuff from the 80s and the early 90s, the impact is lost because they've cut out some of the music they don't have the rights to. So if you got the DVD, whatever of that, you've still got the original. Because soon there won't be any originals left. And it's like, well, it's all online. But they can tweak it and change it. So I'm a bit paranoid when it comes to that.
It's the other thing, like with streaming. 1 minute a show's on a streaming service, and the next thing they're announcing, oh yeah, we're getting rid of these 30, 40, 50 shows. And you think, well, yes, surely a catalogue of content is what you need for a streaming service. And is the renewal of those rights really that expensive compared to the income you're making? Or is it a case of, well, actually, no one watches that show, therefore renewing the rights to it isn't worth it, but for the poor sod who does want to watch it, you've got 6 weeks, sucks for you. Because
Yeah,
I know Disney did that. They merged with someone recently,
Star. I think
and
it's
then
Star.
cut a load. They cut a load of content, like the new Willow show. They literally
Yeah,
here's Willow series, and everyone went cool, and they went, and it's now leaving Disney, and everyone went, oh, we better watch it then.
yeah. It's kind of it's that the rights thing is a weird thing where some countries have it and some don't. And I think in this day and age, for me, like, what's the point in region DVDs anymore? There's no point in that.
Yeah,
It should just all be one region. I still don't get nowadays. And also, like, Paramount was another streaming service. Oh, I want to watch this particular series. I can't remember the name of it, but it's not on Paramount UK, but it's in America. Well, what's the point? You might as well. There's obviously some legal stuff, and I'm sure I don't know the ins and outs, but surely whatever service you're running in America should be the same as you give to everybody. Why have two different regional kind of things? It doesn't make sense this day and age.
yeah, because that's what I found with Picard. Because I've been told it's on Paramount Plus, I went, well, I won't see it then because it won't be on the service I've got. And then they turned around and said, oh no, it's on Amazon in the UK. I went, well, why did I not know that?
Yeah, because it was because Paramount was rolling it out. So the first couple of seasons were on Amazon because Amazon have paid for it, haven't they? They're involved in it. And then when Paramount Plus was out this time as the third season, it was out on Paramount like a day before. And it's like, well, just the point. It seems a bit silly. It's kind of got like that where it's just like tit for tat.
It takes you back to the days when you would go and hear like a film came out in America 6 months before it came out over here. And now it's basically same day release because of the internet.
Yeah, it's very rare. It used to be, and that wasn't that long ago where Americans would get an X film first and we wouldn't get it for a long time.
But now we're getting it like a few days early normally.
Yeah, especially like the Marvel ones.
It's kind of flipped, doesn't it? So we get it first and you go, haha, here's some spoilers.
Yeah, it is bizarre. Like the way that kind of works, where it's now, the internet has, and the pirating has pushed a lot of that into the open, isn't it? In terms of making it easier to access this stuff.
So I think our question for ourselves was actually, is streaming a good thing or not? And I think the answer is case of yes and no with a massive asterisks. A case of, well, actually, is it going to be the death of TV? If something like a TV license goes and the BBC goes, does Doctor Who exist anymore? And for us, that is a question. Who knows? It'll sort of be picked up and it might evolve into something else. But actually, would it be the same show at its heart? But then again, if you look at old Who and new Who versus movie who knows?
Who knows? One thing we haven't touched on is the concept of binge watching. So back in the day, you used to get one episode a week and you had to wait a week. So Game of Thrones was a classic example. You'd have one episode and you had to wait for the next one. But now, obviously, where they just drop a whole series at once, I don't know. I like binge watching certain things because it is quite nice to just roll into the next episode. But at the same time, I quite like to savor the experience, because once you binge watch something I wouldn't go more than one or two episodes in a day. But once you binge watch something in a week, say, that's it. What next? What next? Because there's so many shows. I think
it's also a dangerous one where if you drop a whole 10-episode show in a day and someone just sits there all day and watches it, and then you go online, the entire show is ruined for you because you've not sat for 10 hours and watched it.
Yeah, you have to dodge spoilers like the plague, and you're not a heavy TikTok user. I am. You're flicking through TikTok, and it's even harder to dodge. You're scrolling of doom, and you hit a spoiler, and you can't unsee it because it's there. At least with YouTube, you get the thumbnail, and you can kind of avoid it. But no, quite often I've stumbled across spoilers of things recently. I've gone, no. So binge watching is an interesting thing because it can make or break a show as well. Because, like you say, if it drops all at once and its reviews are bad, people won't watch it.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side, if they don't drop it all at once, people get suspicious. Well, why haven't you dropped it all at once? Is it that bad that you haven't done it?
Yeah.
It's all
It's like I like it if they don't do the first episode or two. So if you do like a two-parter starter episode, drop that, and then just do an episode a week. And you're going, oh, actually, this feels like TV again. You have to wait a whole week to see another episode.
Picard was like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I like that. That's my nostalgia. Going, yeah, I want to come home and turn my telly on and watch me episode of whatever, and then
I haven't seen it, but apparently it's very good. There's a series called Kaleidoscope on Netflix, which you can watch the episodes in any order. You don't have to watch it from start to finish. You can just pick any episode, and apparently the story still works.
Okay.
I've heard people tell me it's really good. You can just randomly pick anything, and you can watch it in any way you like. So
that sounds a bit mad.
That's a recommendation. I do need to actually see it myself, but that's a clever way, like they did, and also like Netflix, like they did with Bandersnatch, where it's a choose your own adventure thing a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that was really good, and little things like that was it wasn't Netflix, of course, it was Black Mirror, but little twists on the genres to make things a little bit different is quite nice. I suppose the other thing I was thinking of is, obviously we're talking from a UK point of view, but in the States, it's all very traditional networks, isn't it? So Warner Brothers, NBC, all that kind of stuff have these shows on, whereas we only have 5 channels, one national broadcaster, one secondary, and that's it really, isn't it? Channel 4, but we don't. So theirs is still quite a traditional model, but I suppose that's where all these streaming services are coming from. It's from those networks who are trying to push those things outside of their normal cable kind of offering.
Yeah, because I know, thinking about the States again, there's a lot more like sort of local news and the classic sponsored content. So if you're watching like your favourite reporter and suddenly they're talking about some unproven medical thing because a company's paid for an advert in the middle of a news show. And I'm quite happy we don't have that or as much of that here.
No, and a lot of people say, "Oh, BBC is never. You need a license fee." The license fee's antiquated and outdated. I'm sorry. I like.
Yeah.
I understand why they do it and the money where it goes, and there's a lot of passion about it. But the fact it's called a license fee, so yeah, I could just stop paying it tomorrow, and the only thing you get told is on iPlayer is, do you have a license? Yes or no? Click. But there's so much hassle involved, and they chase you down, and they don't believe you and stuff like that. I think in this day and age, they should rethink the model. Now, if that's going to be advertising, fair enough. I think it's got to a point now.
I think advertising on the Beeb would be weird, and I don't think we'd really want that. But also, I think if the license fee went and the BBC was a commercial channel, a lot of the stuff they do, like radio, world service, all the kids stuff, bite size, all of the supporting elements that you just kind of forget about because they just happen.
Take for granted,
Yeah, exactly. So you go, well, actually, if they didn't exist, that's a real problem, because like the world service is a proper thing. Like again, all the GCSE bite size, all that stuff that just happens because the license fee exists. If it didn't exist, yes, it might not affect us anymore, but the next generations, it'll be really handy for.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
So you think, well, actually, I'm paying a license fee, but does it matter if I get to do all of these core services? Yes, the BBC News might be a bit biased, and Fiona Bruce might be a bit pro-Brexit at times, bless her. But actually, am I willing to accept one to ensure that the other exists? Because Amazon are not going to do BBC World Service.
No.
Because they're a commercial entity, and they go, well, don't make me any money, mate, while we're doing it. So it's how do you fund these things without a license fee?
Yeah, the BBC isn't just TV, you're right. And I forgot about all the little things that goes along with it. I just think it should be like a subscription model in a sense, but how do you decouple the likes of BBC West Midlands radio from BBC One TV, you can't really, because it's all
Yeah.
kind of meshed together, isn't it?
And if I'm honest, the BBC's requirement for impartiality, where you must show equal sides of every argument, you go, well, actually, the classic stuff like climate denial. If I've got to have one scientist saying it is a thing, one scientist saying it isn't, well, actually, no, because you should have 3 saying it is and 97 saying it, or
the impartiality thing, all that stuff with Gary Lineker a couple of months ago, is just an absolute joke.
Yeah,
and it is mired in politics. No matter how they don't say it is mired in politics.
Yeah, and that's the thing. How do you make the BBC a truly independent entity that is not influenced, corrupted, changed by government? You go, well, how do you do that? And I think it needs to be funded in a way like the license fee, and just go, no, stop cutting it, stop capping it. And like when they had all the license fees for pensioners, and they said, well, actually, we need to get rid of those. And then suddenly the government went, oh, you can't do that. But you told us to. You literally said, don't do this. This was your policy. I don't know how this became a political conversation.
Yeah, this is a podcast in itself. So the journeys in politics, the other sisters.
With Matt and Tim.
Oh Lord, there's the podcast idea. No, but BBC is you start going down that rabbit hole. How do you fix the BBC? There's probably some articles out there about how you could possibly do it, but it does feel behind the times for what we've got now. Yeah,
joking aside, the first way you fixed the BBC is you fired a DG, didn't you? Because he's a bloody Conservative donor.
That's absolutely.
And again, it's a political appointment to destroy an institution to then do something else with it.
Yeah, because they're desperate to break it up. No, essentially, I suppose BBC obviously do have a streaming service, BritBox, obviously BBC ITV Channel 4, and actually, even though I got it at a discount, it is probably one of the best value for money ones that I've got, because they rarely get rid of something. They keep adding, it's because I'm getting old, they keep adding all the old stuff on there. They have the whole series of Doctor Who, edited or unedited, depending on your point of view. And there's some good stuff that you don't normally get on the other things. So
because you also have to remember, like, what other channels the BBC own. Like, I'm sure they own Dave.
They probably do have Dave. I forgot about Dave.
Because it was all old BBC shows. And then they Taskmaster, that was on Dave every week. So suddenly it was new content on a random TV channel. And now a lot of the stuff moved to Channel 4 and you go, well, actually,
you're right.
How many of these channels are all inter-owned anyway?
BBC Worldwide and Discovery Inc. in America.
Yeah.
There you go. I didn't know that. We learned something today.
Yeah, because they were sort of saying, oh, we should sell off Channel 4. Why? It's profitable.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's literally a joke. Oh, it makes money, we should sell it. No? Why would you do that?
Yeah, loads of them. I didn't realise that. I think they're all... Is that another one?
Well, UK TV Gold, all of that. It's all Eve, isn't it?
Dave, Alibi, Drama, Eden, Gold, W, and Yesterday. Of course, it's all the stuff you see on BritBox.
All the TV shows,
so it's all kind of dropped in there. Yeah, interesting.
Admittedly, we have gone down a complete tangent and rabbit hole from streaming services, but I think that's the thing. The world of TV is such a big thing. And if you start the conversation about American TV versus British TV, again, the whole model is different, like late night talk shows and comedy shows and all stuff like that we watch but wouldn't have on our channels. Like sort of Seth Meyers show and bloody Stephen Colbert and John Oliver and all those comedians / presenters. We don't have that.
No, you have the old one or two like Graham Norton and stuff like that, but it's not a staple part of British TV that happens every night. Yeah, that's probably a podcast in itself, the difference between American TV and British TV in general.
So we're going to have Journeys in Politics, Journeys in American TV. It's a whole series of podcasts.
It is, yeah, because it's like public broadcasting service in America, isn't it, and stuff like that. And that's where Doctor Who was shown on originally, and obviously now BBC Worldwide BBC America pushes it all out. How do we get it back to streaming? I think, how many streaming services are available? Let's have a quick look.
Oh Jesus!
Because
loads.
I
can't even fathom how many, because I'm old and uncultured.
Because there's so many. The order. Oh, good Lord! I could get into it. This, I think. What I was going to get to is I don't think there'll be any more. It'd be interesting to see what happens. How, like I said it before, Sky picks up a lot of the HBO shows. Yeah. Is that going to continue when Max becomes the entity that it is? Because especially with Harry Potter coming to Max, who's going to get the rights to that in the UK? That's going to be a big one, because that'll be, are HBO going to push out their services internationally or still sell it off to Prime, to Sky? That'll be a big one. So when that launches in, whenever it's going to launch,
because haven't all the Potter movies just gone on to
Netflix? Yeah, last month or so. But this HBO Max series is going to be last for 10 years. So someone's going to get it. I don't want it to be Sky, because that means I have to pay to see it on Now TV. But the trend is Sky picks up HBO Max shows here in the UK. I'd rather HBO Max comes to the UK and I'll pay for that.
Yeah. And also another random question. So when we were kids at school, you could watch the latest TV show and talk about it the next week. But now with all these streaming services, if you don't have them all, are you then sort of creating a new divide of you haven't got Amazon, so you can't watch the next big thing?
There was that hoo-ha,
you haven't got Netflix or whatever.
Some Tory MP said, well, cost of living, families should cut down on the subscription services to save money. Completely out of touch. Because if you look at it, if your parents only pay for Netflix and Amazon, and the thing that everyone watches is on Disney Plus, you discriminated against, or people watch it before you've watched it, because your parents don't let you watch something until the weekend, for instance. I don't know, I'm just making up an idea. There's that whole concept there as well, is like people are not seeing things at the same time anymore. If episode of X was on at 8 p.m. on a Friday and you videotaped it or something like that, it's the only way it'd be different. But now it could be at 12 a.m, 1 a.m, 6 p.m, whatever. Spoilers are ahoy. But yeah, you're right. Kids, you know about how kids are going to be watching, because we haven't even touched on the fact that kids my son's age, watch YouTube. And that's a whole different. Obviously, this is on YouTube and on other podcasting providers, but they watch videos on YouTube, and that's a whole different element of streaming and content. Is people like you and me making content for kids, or not for kids, but is consumed by kids. Oh God, that sounds really bad.
Abort, fall back from this conversation.
Reverse. Beep, beep, beep. Kids,
well, it's like
anyone can make content, anyone can watch.
Yeah, like my little niece, who's 5, 4, 5, and age. I've forgotten how old she is. 4. My sister can never see this. This is fine. She is probably better using an iPad than I am, because it's like ducks to water to grow up using them. Yeah.
Anecdotal. When they first made the iPad or iPhone? I think it was iPad. Apple took it to a remote village somewhere in Africa and just gave it to people and didn't tell them how to use it, and they were able to use it within a minute because it's so intuitive to use. There you go, Steve Jobs.
That's good product design, isn't it?
Yeah. But kids, they grow up with easy, quick access content like that. So my son goes round to his grandparents, and they've got normal TV. Well, they've got Freeview, but he's got used to it now. But he used to get really frustrated because he couldn't fast forward through the adverts. Not that. And he said, "Where's no? This is live TV, mate. You can't pause it, you can't fast forward it. He's got used to it now, but to start with, he's getting really frustrated that you couldn't pause it and go to the toilet. So it's like, nope, not like it used to be in the old days, where you had to run when you get the advert break, you had to leg it to the toilet and then leg it back.
Well, if you think we're the end of that last sort of analog generation, aren't we? Because
we are.
Because we grew up with analog TV. If you wanted to watch something, you recorded it on videotape.
Yeah.
Or or you like used a floppy disk and stuff like that to save stuff. But now it's all streamed and cloud service and all that. So we've come from the analog era into like this digital era, and it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And there are times where I just go, "Oh, I feel old. This is not good."
Yeah. So God knows what the TV will be like in 5 years' time, let alone when my son's my age. It's going to be crazy. Because obviously, this dates this podcast. Apple have just announced their augmented reality Vision Pro this week. And is that going to be a game changer? Is the VR going to become more of a commonplace thing where you just sat with the big goggles on, watching your movies?
It's just Google Glass all over again.
That's it. It's if you see the demo, they've gone hand in hand with Disney, and they showed a demo of what the Disney Plus app will look like through these things, and it's like the screen there, but you've got all the extra information on one thing and another screen. It just look wow. It's mind blowing to think. Yes, it's antisocial, but if you're sat there watching a massive screen in front of you, do you need a TV anymore?
Who knows?
Yeah, just sat there. With
So
this
next podcast, are we even going to have tellies anymore? Who knows?
Yeah, it'll just be me.
It's like my final thought, like the fact that my old telly was just a normal telly, and now the new one, it's got Wi-Fi and plugs into the internet cable and does all this stuff. And you go, why does my TV need internet access? Why have I got to sign into a Samsung account to use my telly? What's going on?
Getting old. Don't trust them.
Yeah.
Because you never know who you might be watching.
Well, it's like at work, they gave me a new printer and they go, you need to download an app for it. I went, do I? Do I hell?
Where's my parallel cable?
Yeah. Why do I need an app to use my printer? Get stuffed. Yeah, that printer surprisingly broke for some reason. And now I've got a new one, doesn't need that. Who knows?
Not admitting anything at all.
No. It did generally break as well.
Out of a 2-story window. Whoops. It is weird because we joke about it, but we are getting old and technology is moving at such a fast pace. And you think YouTube, like we said before, wasn't a thing when we last did the podcast. It was still growing, and now anyone could do YouTube anywhere, anytime, using any device. Yeah. And this concept, you joke about it, augmented reality, if it kicks off and people are now wearing goggles and all this kind of stuff, it's like, interesting. Where's that going to go?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think back to when I was like 18 and a mobile phone was like a Nokia 3210, and that thing could kill a man and still work afterwards. Whereas now you've got your life is on your phone.
Yep.
Whereas back in the day it was, this is emergency calls if I'm lucky, and maybe a text message.
Yep.
And like I thought the colour screen, I went, I remember getting my first colour screen mobile and going, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I've really dated hold I am, haven't I?
Yeah, that's it. WAP internet, £1 a second.
Yeah. Oh, if they picked the phone up, the internet's died.
This is the podcast where we just sit here and reminisce about VHS and dial tones and floppy disks and CDs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We just have to rename the podcast Two Old Men Shout at Cloud, doesn't it?
Oh, dear. I think that's a logical way to end this podcast by just shouting at a cloud.
Yeah. On that note,
so
I
listeners,
think
viewers,
that draws us to an end.
Give us what is your recommendation for streaming service? What is the best one from value for money? What is the worst one? It's a really bad thing, but I can't actually tell you how much I pay for Netflix or Amazon. I should know, but it just goes out of my account and I don't check it, and that's really bad because you don't know if they've put the prices up and stuff like that. But which is the best one? And I suppose, is what do you think will happen in the future, in the near future, in terms of these kind of services?
Yeah. And I think the third question should be, should we start a new podcast called Two Old Men Shout at Cloud?
Yeah. Or at politics.
Yeah.
Oh, right. On that note, I
Yes.
shall say cheerio.
And I shall say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh.